Welcome to the Music Life podcast from the BBC World Service. I'm Radiohead bassist and musician Colin Greenwood. I've been playing with the same bunch of friends for the past 25 years. Bass, a bit of guitar, a bit of double bass. Music Life is a show where 4 artists from around the world get together to talk about all aspects of life as a musician. A new podcast episode is released every Friday, ahead of being broadcast on the World Service on Saturdays and Sundays. So subscribe wherever you listen so that you don't miss any. You can also find lots of other great episodes at the website featuring Iggy Pop, Ray, plus many more. Head to bbcworldservice.com/musiclife. Joining me today on this very special show is a great array of musicians. A Belgian musician and singer Tamino, songwriter, producer and singer Caroline Polacek, and legendary pianist and producer Robert Glasper. We'll be discussing keeping the creative flame alive, overcoming the voice of the inner critic, and why you need a plan B if you're a musician. Hey! Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Oh, it's so nice to see you. Oh man, I know. Yeah. Wow. That one, the capital one, packed like sardines. We put it back in our set after we saw you do it.
No, you did not.
Basically, it was amazing. That's fine. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
coming.
such an honor.
This is Tammy.
Nice to meet you. Pleasure to meet you.
Okay, so I'm going to start with you. I'm going to be pointing, which my mum said was rude, but anyway. Okay, so okay, ready? First up, a Belgian singer, musician and model of Egyptian and Lebanese heritage. The grandson of renowned Egyptian singer and movie star Muharrem Fouad. I collaborated with him on the 2017 EP Habibi. He released his debut album the following year called Amir. He's quoted as saying, "I spend a lot of time trying to get the words for my songs just right. I never finish writing a song if I feel I can't say anything with it." It's Tamino. Thanks so much for coming, Tamino. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good, yeah. A songwriter, producer and singer born in New York before moving to Japan at an early age. Formerly of the synth-pop outfit Chairlift, along with the alter egos Ramona Lisa and CEP. She's now a solo artist using her own name, releasing the album Pang last year. She's worked with the likes of Solange, Blood Orange, Travis Scott, Charlie XCX, and is quoted as saying, "I don't feel like I have a clear lane in the music industry right now," which is actually very exciting. It's Caroline Polacek. Great to see you. How are you?
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Colin. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. And finally, but by no means least, a Grammy and Emmy award-winning jazz pianist, producer, composer and arranger from Texas. The list of people he's worked with is huge, but includes Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West, Erykah Badu, Q-Tip, Jay-Z, Dilla, Anderson .Paak, just to name a few. He's quoted as saying, "The music is going to die if you don't tap into something that people can relate to." And it's the legendary Robert Glasper. Lovely to have you here. How are
Legendary now. Jesus. Old. I'm good.
Legendary.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Welcome to Music Life. I'm Radiohead bassist and musician Colin Greenwood. So the first thing I wanted to ask everyone, because obviously we've completely disparate group of people around the table, which is fantastic, of different ages as well. I'm probably one of the older members. And I wanted to know for people whether music burnt for everyone as strongly as when, we first fell for the sounds or songs that we first heard and loved. What was that sound or song that we all loved, and how we keep that passion going. So I'll start with you, Robert.
Yeah, I still have I guess when I first started liking music, it was because I just liked the way it sounded. It made me feel a certain way.
Yeah, like the sonics, frequencies.
Yeah, and I didn't know what I was feeling. I remember the first record I fell in love with is Michael Jackson's Off the Wall record. I was in 3rd grade. Was that like 8 years old? My dad took me to see the Victory Tour in 1985 when I was 7.
Wow.
And so I saw Michael when I was 7, and then I fell in love with Off the Walls. I used to unfold it and just sit by the record player and play it for hours. They knew where I was. So I was at home. Yeah. He's in the room listening to Off the Wall. They knew that's what I was doing. Yeah. And fast forward, I feel like I keep falling in love with music because I keep living life. And, and if your music is really connected to actual real things in real life, you can't fall out of it. Because with the good and the bad.
And is there anything like reaching back into that past now that you like, that has inspired you with things you're working on?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a new uncle. I call him. His name is Greg Fillinganes. He's might be the most, if not in the top 3 of most recorded keyboard players of all time.
What's his name again?
Greg Fillinganes.
Okay.
He's on Off the Wall. He's on the whole album, playing Rhodes.
Right.
So that was my first, and now I know, getting older, what drew me to the album as well was the Fender Rhodes.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the first album I've ever heard that really featured it the way it does.
Because I love this guy called Willie Weeks, who's an amazing bass player, who played with Donny Hathaway. And of course, the brilliant things of Spotify and stuff like that, you can go for players' playlists now, can't you?
Yes,
so you could probably put in gains in there,
100%.
and there'll be a list of the stuff that
he played on songs of the Key of Life too.
Yeah.
Greg Fillinganes played on like the most important.
Yeah, so you can.
That's all you need.
You can geek out big time, can't you?
100%. 100%.
Brilliant. Okay, Tamino. So, anything, the first loves, and then most recent.
Well, it's funny. For me, it was the same. Like in the beginning, music is kind of abstract. It's just sounds you like, and you sing along to it, maybe. And then, because my mom was always playing around, playing a lot of records in the house, and so I remember the first record that I asked her what it was that was being played. It was "Imagine" by John Lennon.
Yeah.
Before that, I didn't really care what was being played. But then as soon as she told me about him and the Beatles as well, then I wanted to know everything.
Yeah.
Like how he looked and who wrote which song. And from there on, I think I wanted to play piano as well because of the video of Imagine.
Yeah.
So that was my first instrument. And then from there on, I went to... in my teenager years to discover more of Arabic music, which are my roots from my father's side, and that really resonated. Also, like you said, Robert, like I think if you write about, or if your life influences your music, it's always entangled, and it's always something you keep on needing and going back to. So. I mean, that I've had my moments on tour where I was like, I just want to be home for a bit and I just want to chill and not do music. But then I've done that for the last couple of weeks, and I've noticed that I just keep on returning to it naturally.
But music can be like going home, can't it? When you put something on, that's where you are.
Exactly.
So,
it was also that I was missing. I think just being at home writing and... not playing the same songs each night.
Cool. Okay, Caroline.
Well, the thing I was going to talk about actually really links in with that idea of home as well. The first experience of listening to music that I think ever really struck me was actually watching cartoons when I was a kid living in Japan. There was this show called Kurimi Mami where this little girl who was a student would sometimes have this special skill where she could transform to this intergalactic musician princess. I remember thinking, that's what I want to be when I grow up. But when I was 7, my parents got divorced, and they simultaneously both started listening to a lot of Enya. And that album, those albums, Shepherd Moons and Watermark, actually became a kind of sonic home for me during that time when I felt like I didn't necessarily have one particular place where I belonged. That music became so extremely like maternal and also so transporting that I felt like that music would take me to this kind of other zone, this kind of dream space that I very deeply identified with. And I realized that music had that special power to do this thing. To kind of bring you into this dream zone, and weirdly to have this shared experience with other people where they were also going there while you're all like in a Hyundai,
Soundtrack to your life.
Yeah, that music has the ability to kind of bridge two worlds and
also the influence of having parents and siblings saying you've got to listen to this. I had an older sister who turned me on to like Joy Division and Magazine and all the post-punk stuff, So it was massive, those massive family influences.
Yeah.
Brilliant, okay. You're listening to BBC World Service and this is Music Life. I'm Radiohead bassist and musician Colin Greenwood, joined by Belgian musician and singer Tamino, songwriter, producer and singer Caroline Polacek, and legendary pianist and producer Robert Glasper. Oh yeah, okay. So obviously some of these questions I'm asking are sort of slightly relating to where my headspace is as well, and this one could be this one too. So thinking about making music, I was wondering, how do you overcome the voice of the inner critic, whether it's, you know, a positive or a negative voice? Do you sometimes need to tell it to shut up, and how you do that? And then I was wondering as well, having friends and family influencing your music. Allegedly, Madonna listens only to her sister and her manager for feedback. Is there anyone that you listen to? Robert?
Yeah, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. I had a cousin, well, she passed away now, but my little cousin, she was my ear to the streets of the young people.
The kids.
Yeah. So when I made something that I thought I wanted the young people to really like, I always send it to her first at the studio.
Yeah.
You know, right after I finished something, I would send it to her like, what do you think about this? She'd be like, oh, that sounds good. Oh, it sounds old. It sounds this. It sounds that. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me change it. Because I know I don't know everything. And, you know, I'm an artist and I like to stay current. You know what I mean? Without losing myself. And I like to, you know, just have a nice middle ground there. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I'll ask certain relatives about things that I respect musically. Yeah. You know, and sometimes people I don't respect musically because I just want to know what they think of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to respect you musically necessarily, but if you like my song, awesome. You know what I mean? So it's just that.
It's data collection.
Yeah, it's that. Exactly. That's what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Most of the time. And I listen to my bands, they tell me the truth.
And then what about...
My son tells me the truth.
Yeah. And what yeah, absolutely. No filters.
100%.
What about the inner voice thing, the thing of, is this any good? I don't know. You know, or do you not listen to it when you're starting? Do you wait?
I've written so many songs that never saw the light of day. I have it on a lot of times I record stuff in my voice notes on my phone. Yeah. All my songs are my voice notes on my phone because I never create at the piano. Yeah. The universe doesn't give you the song when you sit down and decide. So like, I'm going to write a song today. You know, it's like I'm at the urinal or something random. That's when the song hits me. So I've sung so many things on my phone at the urinal. A person's next to me like, what's going on? You know, but that's what I do. And then I'll listen to it later and be like, nah. And then I'll find something like, yeah, I like that. You know what I mean? So yeah. I know going in, some things are ideas that are for now, and some things are ideas that I've gone back 2 years in my phone and found something and made a song out of it. So I don't even look at it as it was a bad idea. I just look at it as not right now.
Yeah. Do you ever go back and listen to those voice notes that you've left and not be able to make heads or tails of it? Like, 100%. What key is this in? Where is the one?
Oh, yes, 100%.
What is this time signature?
Yeah, all that. So I try to give as much information now when I do it.
What's your system?
I say, okay, it's 4/4. The beat is here. You know what I mean? And then I go and I try to I'll hum a key center.
I do that too. Yeah. I do a count off at the key center. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then everything else is relational to that.
Exactly. But if you wait too long and you don't give all that, you're like, what in the world was this?
It's gone.
Terrible. Absolutely.
What about you, Tamino?
It's funny. Yeah, for me, I rarely have inspiration hit me out of the blue. I really have to sit down and start working every day. Mm-hmm. But it's true, like you said, if you say to yourself, now I'm going to come up with the best song ever, it's not going to happen. So in the end, you still wait for the right moment of inspiration to come together with the work. Right. But then often just to get myself to the work, it's overcoming the inner voice of like, you've lost it, or it's not gonna work again. I have that every time again, every day. Even if you have even if I'd have like the greatest day ever writing some songs, then the next day it's just back from the beginning again.
Maybe it comes later anyway. It's more of an editing thing. It's like once you've got a bunch of stuff, then you
it's you have to just shut it out in the beginning. Just let the ideas flow, and then after you can really start criticizing what you've made.
Absolutely. Yeah, my friend Nigel is my producer, and Tom and the singer in my band. They're very prolific and work. It's all about working all the time, and from what I understand, was working with them. And it's making the start. It's getting the momentum is the hardest thing and the most important thing. And then questioning it later, perhaps. Yeah.
So, Colin, when you guys are kind of in the momentum in that group of things, you guys have worked together for so many years now.
Yes.
I can imagine that
Get
you
less
guys...
for murder.
I mean, I don't know how you do it, but we're all very grateful,
Yes.
obviously. How do you handle the process of kind of ricocheting ideas back and forth when you're not in the same room together, which I imagine you're not always?
That's true. We've spent a lot of time in the same room together and on the same bus together and in the same dressing room. So I think I can only talk about my response to what other people are doing, and how I work is if it reminds me of something else that someone else has done that I love, then I get excited. And only I can explain. If it reminds me of, say, an Isaac Hayes horn line from when live at Lake Tahoe or something like that someone plays something and I can hear it, or a Dilla, it reminds me of something by Dilla, and then what I play or what I write on top is informed by my excitement of how those two things are linked, and that's how I work.
What happens in a scenario where you hear something that doesn't remind you of anything? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, that's brilliant, especially when that happens, because it's a collective. Because the idea is, Tom in my band would say he always likes to be represented with something he hadn't imagined he was going to hear when he went in at the beginning. So, and that's for all of us, and that's kind of a definition of creation, isn't it? You've made something new, you've birthed something into the universe that hasn't been there before, and generally things that are successful like that can be listened to loads as well. So that's the most exciting part of what we do, I think. Yeah. And Caroline, so you've worked with on so many different projects, but obviously you're a singer-songwriter at the heart of it. How important is it to you to listen to that inner voice of, yes, no, this is good, this isn't working?
I think for me it's so tied up with the ego, which I think gets a lot of flack as like a negative force. But I think if we're being honest, none of us would be sitting in these chairs if we didn't have egos. And I guess I consider my own sense of like hyper-analysis and quality control so essential to who I am as an artist that I think, unfortunately, I invite the inner critic into the room maybe more often than I should. I'm very critical of my own work. I've learned to be way more open-minded in collaborations, actually, than I am when I'm working by myself. But I guess I'm happy with the results, so I just continue fighting that war.
Yeah, great.
One interesting thing, and I'm sure we can all relate to this, is that very psychedelic sensation of when you're working by yourself, but you're flipping through these filters of listening to it with other people's ears. Like I'm listening to something with someone else in mind. Yeah. And then the next day you'll be listening to it thinking about, what is this other person going to think of it? And you hear it completely differently.
Yeah.
And that's so much of like a wild thing that I think all humans kind of do in different ways. But it's just it's so crazy how that works.
I do that when I listen to new Radiohead stuff with my friends. We were talking about playing it back to your friends and family, Robert. Yeah. I do that when we're working on stuff. And I sort of care what they think about it, but equally, I sort of don't. But I need them. I need an audience of people who aren't intimately connected with music to work out what I think about it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody, for this. It's brilliant. Okay. Oh yeah, this is a true story. I met Tony Bennett in a restaurant in Florence when we were doing some shows years ago. And he said, I don't know if he said it at the restaurant, but he's definitely said it because I read about it. He said you should always have a plan B as a musician or an artist in case, the plan A doesn't work out. And for Tony Bennett, it's painting. So I was wondering if there are any other passions that you have that aren't music, but equally if that other passion has any way sort of fed into your musical life too, Robert.
Well, looking the way I do, modeling, obviously. That's something that's natural.
You should ask Tamino about that.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? You are the good-looking guy here. Kind of like acting, comedy, acting.
Really?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, my whole life, everybody's like, "You're so funny. You're so funny." That's kind of my personality. So even when I play my shows, I'm the same on stage and off stage. You know what I mean? I don't have a stage I don't have a stage character. You know what I mean? Like, this is who I am all the time.
Yeah.
So I think naturally that I would go into something in that world. in that show business kind of world.
Because you've just done that film with the last record. I can't say
exactly.
F-bomb you feelings, and where it's like a sort of big collaborative thing, and it's like it's sort of being filmed and documented, and that was something you really enjoyed.
Yeah, I love being in front of the camera too.
Yeah,
especially in front of the camera with the music too, and kind of making it all. Yeah, it's fun.
And acting? Have you ever done anything like that? Have any TV stuff?
No, but I'm working on a few things to do that. I played Huckleberry Finn in 5th grade in a school play, so that was good.
Have you got any actor friends? Like not to name them.
Yeah.
My personal experience of friends who it makes the music, but it's working in music look like you're working in a legal profession or something. It's the most insecure. It's such an insecure job being an actor, isn't it? And whenever they all get together, they talk nervously about what they're doing, or not doing. It's I think so respectful of them for that. But,
sure.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Tamino, plan B for. I know you're how old are you? 23. So I mean, it's a bit early to be talking about a plan B. but I'm in Radiohead. What do you expect?
Right.
The worst case scenario is always going to rear its ugly head. So what's your plan B in case it doesn't pan out at the age of 23?
I did have like a talk with a friend. Like if for some reason I would run out of money or something, I would never want to write a record just to be able to go back on tour and to be able to survive. I would rather work in a pub or something. I don't know. I just kind of look at it that way. I really think there's a lot of examples of albums that have been made just to go out on tour again, and I would never want to do something like that. But
there are friends of mine who are musicians. It is like it's a vocation. It's a gun to the head. This is what I do. This is what defines me, and I'm not going to do anything else. So, and I know your brother Rami's a fantastic photographer. He's been documenting.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything other than music that you?
Up until I was like 16, 17, I acted, but then I just don't think that's where my heart is in the end. Right. I really but I'm definitely too young for that. But maybe
you
writing.
You don't have to worry about the fallback right now, do you? No. All right, Caroline.
I used to think all the time about Plan B when I had just graduated from college and was touring and had extreme imposter syndrome. And it was always like, I'm not a real musician. One day people are going to figure that out. So I'd think all the time about, what I would do. And I actually interviewed with galleries to maybe be the girl working behind the desk at the gallery. And it was like, okay, I'll let you know in a month. And of course, I never let them know. But if I couldn't do music anymore, I think I've so enjoyed working on the visuals for this recent album, like everything from the typography to the music videos to even the way it gets presented on social media and how that connects to styling and language. And I think I'd really enjoy actually working as a creative director for other musicians, especially people working with an extremely different kind of music and attitude than what I do. Being a touring musician all the time, we encounter all sorts of design flaws and things that just make us crazy. And we always see things that could be done so much better. So I think I actually have so many pet peeves that have built up for me over the years that I probably want to go into like packaging design or industrial design of some kind just to help make things differently, make things better and greener.
But that's one of the great things about what we do in music is we get to meet so many other different people practicing different forms of creativity, whether it's design, photography, stuff like that. It's fantastic.
For better or for worse, the processes of making the music and then figuring out how it gets visually presented become two very different chapters. I do really resent this thing of being a musician where different parts of a quote-unquote campaign get segmented off into different moments of the cycle. Like, oh, I'm in the studio now. Oh, I'm building the campaign now. Oh, I'm on the road now. And then you just rinse and repeat this. It's like this almost a seasonal cycle. And I really wish that they were more integrated so you can be working on everything at the same time, but logistically it doesn't really help to be doing that. So you get this phase where you're just marinating in how the music gets presented to people. And I really enjoy the process of research, of collecting images, collecting ideas, even things that seem like they don't belong together, and looking at them next to each other, listening to the music, seeing what do these have in common, what do these bring to each other. And how does this exist in the world? How does this connect with people? How does this relate to what else is going on? Am I presenting anything new? Am I not? And at the beginning, it always feels like a big task, like this kind of thing that I kind of resentfully take on. But if like a month into it, I just get so excited about it. And like you were saying earlier about music kind of existing in the world and the intake of music just being part of living, the visual inspiration starts to feel like that. I'll kind of find it everywhere.
That's really cool. That's really interesting that everyone around this table has got such different ways into their creativity. You know, whether it's Robert like working with a whole bunch of people in a recording studio, but then filming that, then having people playing live in the studio. You know, back in the day, no one would see the inside of a studio, and you make it into like a concert hall, and then you're streaming it everywhere. And then, you know, Tamina, you're at home, all the family music that you're inspired by, and then the culture growing up in Antwerp. And then Caroline, sort of the projects. You remind me of PJ Harvey, Polly Harvey, talking about how she assembles her next thing that she wants to comment on musically. It sounds very similar to that. It's fantastic. Now springtime is finally upon us. Robert, are there any projects out now or anything that you've got coming up that you'd like to share with us? Touring albums?
Yes, I'll be recording with an amazing band called Radiohead and recording on the next album and touring with them. That's happening, whether you like it or not, Colin.
Okay.
So that's definitely happening.
We should get our people to talk to each other, shouldn't we?
For sure.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I have a record. I'm working on a record now. It's the third installment of my Black Radio series. I have a Black Radio and I have a Black Radio Part 2. So I'm working on Black Radio 3. And that should be out probably sometime in July or August.
Fantastic. Thanks, Robert. Tamino, what you got?
Nothing. Honestly.
You're just focusing on working on new stuff after working your ass off for the past 2.5, 3 years.
Yes.
Listen to his last album.
Thank you, Robert.
No problem. I got you.
So we're just very excited to check out what you're going to be doing next. And but so loved the last record, Amir, and I was so proud and privileged to be a very small part of it. And working with your colleagues as well, Ruby and Vic as well, and just a bunch of incredibly talented guys from Antwerp.
I know you don't like it when I say that, but it's of course an honor for us.
No,
and he doesn't like that.
Don't like it. let's move.
He doesn't want me to even introduce him to the crowd.
And Caroline. So yeah, from April, what have you got coming up?
Well, my most recent album, Pang, is now out and living and breathing in the world. And make sure to check it out. It's on all the usual platforms.
Fantastic, yeah.
And if I can pull it off, I'd like to get back into the studio and start making some new music.
Do you do that thing where, can you do that thing where you're touring, doing shows, and then dropping into the studio? Does that work for you?
I'm about to try and find out.
Okay.
I made a record in 2014 that was all recorded on tour in hotel rooms. It was just using my laptop. I just sang into the laptop mic. It was a $0 album, but I want to be a little bit more ambitious with this.
Great.
Very cool.
What do I have coming up? Well, we're taking so in my band Radiohead, we're taking some time off from being Radiohead. This year was a bunch of guys pursuing solo projects, and for me that involves doing bits and pieces with some writing and some photography, and spending time with people who are fun and checking out the culture. Thanks so much to my guests this week, Tamino, Caroline Polacek and Robert Glasper. And thanks to you for listening. I've been Colin Greenwood. There's another Music Life podcast coming your way same time next week. And here's a quick look at what will be happening.